The Las Vegas Raiders might be looking for a head coach this offseason. Owner Mark Davis talked about evaluating head coach Antonio Pierce and GM Tom Telesco separately at the owners' meetings, and some ran with it, saying it means Telesco's job is safe and Pierce's isn't. I don't believe that. I believe it means he's going to evaluate them separately because one has nothing to do with the other. They aren't a package deal like Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. Pierce's job isn't safe, though. The Raiders have lost 9 in a row and they're 2-11. No one should be or has ever been considered safe when having such a season. So, of course, Raider Nation has been talking non-stop about the candidates they want to see become the next head coach of the Raiders. Which of these 5 candidates do you want to see become the Raiders' next head coach? I'm going to start with Antonio Pierce because he's already in the seat. He's pretty polarizing these days. Of course, a big part of the case for him is what he did last year with the culture. The culture's still there too, as the Raiders are still fighting. The execution from last year isn't there anymore because there are too many injuries on the Raider defense that was ranked number 1 over the second half of last year. Pierce pressed all the right buttons last year, giving guys that deserve it an opportunity to play and signing a guy. He didn't get to press too many buttons this year, though. He didn't get the offensive coordinator he wanted, and quarterback Gardner Minshew was put on him. That whole situation made All-Pro corner Richard Sherman say he was set up to fail. There's a hell of a case for it, too. And of course, the case against him is that he's 2-11. There's no excuse for 2-11. You could say this or that didn't go right when you're 6-7, but it won't cover 2-11. Clock management issues when you have a guy in charge of clock management isn't a good look either. Davis is going to look long and hard at each decision Pierce made and didn't make. From there, let's go to Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. There's definitely a big case for the Raiders making him their head coach. His name is probably the hottest name out there right now because of what he's done with the Lions offense. Top offensive coordinators have more success in the NFL than defensive coordinators these days too, and Johnson is at the very top of the offensive coordinators list in this coming hiring cycle. He and quarterback Jared Goff really got the Lions offense going after they were number 22 in total offense and number 25 in scoring back in 2021. In 2022, his first year on the job, the Lions were number 4 in the NFL in total offense and number 5 in scoring. Last year, the Lions were number 3 in total offense and number 5 in scoring. This year so far, the Lions are number 2 in total offense and number 1 in scoring. That's an impeccable resume for a coordinator to have. The case against him is that he doesn't have any head coaching experience. You're not ready to be a head coach until you are one. A lot of hotshot coordinators have been promoted to head coach and weren't up to the task. Some guys are just great offense coordinators. Now we're on to John Gruden. Yes, many of you are wishing he would come back. I have to admit the case for him is pretty strong too, despite how poorly he drafts. He's a cult figure in Raider Nation. He's a rock star head coach you would want to have in Las Vegas. When Gruden was coaching the Raiders, there was no such thing as half of the stadium being fans of the opposing team. Warranted or not, there's just a trust a big portion of Raider Nation has in him to get it done. He gets the benefit of every doubt. Why do you think that is? I think it's an unfinished business thing. Gruden was the last coach to have the Raiders winning on a regular basis in the early 2000s, and then came the fumble and the trade that sent him away. Then all those years later, he comes back and the email scandal hits when the Raiders are in the middle of their first playoff run in almost 20 years. Of course, the case against him is how he drafts. He's probably the worst I've ever seen when it comes to drafting in the early rounds. If I were Davis and I had to hire him, I'd keep my GM in charge of the draft and not let Gruden in the war room until about the 4th or 5th round. Now we're on to Deion Sanders. His name is the most polarizing of all the candidates. Some of you are saying, yeah, let's do it, and others don't want him anywhere near Las Vegas. Like Gruden, Sanders is a rock star that draws a crowd wherever he goes. In his first game in Colorado, he drew 53,241 people, and it was the largest crowd at a Colorado football game in 15 years. The year before Sanders arrived, Colorado's average home attendance was 26,891. In his first full year as Colorado's head coach, they sold out every home game, which was somewhere around the attendance of his first home game. Some will complain about the circus, but that's what you want, because with the circus comes high attendance. Sanders wins, too. Colorado won 1 game the year before Sanders got there. Then in his first year, they won 4, and this year they won 9. That shows you Sanders knows how to turn things around, too. The only case there is against Sanders is that he's never coached in the NFL. He said he's happy in Colorado, but could he turn down coaching his son in the NFL? Last but definitely not least is Mike Vrabel. Sanders is pretty tight with new minority owner Tom Brady, but Vrabel won Super Bowls with him. I think outside of Gruden, this is the one Davis would like to see the most. He's trying to get back to the old Raider way, and he sees the Patriot way as the way to get there. That's why he hired Josh McDaniels a couple of years ago. The move completely blew up in his face, but of all the Bill Belichick disciples, Vrabel is the only one to have any success in the NFL as a head coach. His career record is 54-45, and he went to the playoffs 3 times in his 6 years, all with the Tennessee Titans. If Vrabel comes to Vegas, he can let the defensive staff stay, as they're all from the Belichick coaching tree. He can also hire soon-to-be-fired New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll to be the offensive coordinator, since he's an Erhard Perkins guy. Brady will have a hand in future number 1 overall pick Deion Sanders' development, so it's likely he'll want him in that offense. I can't see a case against Vrabel either. He's a Belichick disciple that has a solid resume himself. He'll be better in his second stint too. This season isn't over yet, so we are a long way from finding out what coaches are going to be available in this coming hiring cycle. So I went with these 5 because these are the 5 I hear Raider Nation talking about the most. It's interesting because we have to see how soon Brady gets comfortable in his minority owner seat. Pierce is already in the seat, and Gruden, well, he signed with an agency and he's looking to get back into coaching. Will Mark bite? We'll see if Ben Johnson wants to be a head coach this offseason, and Deion, could his son lure him away from Colorado? I don't know who I want to be the next Raiders head coach, but I think it's going to be Vrabel. Who do you want? Thank you for watching. See you next time.